Hey guys, welcome to my channel. And in this video, we are going to talk about India-Chile Free Trade Agreement. Now, right now, see, India is on a free trade agreement signing spree. United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, United Arab Emirates, Oman, and above all, the mother of all deals with the European Union. And just recently, India has released the latest joint agreement with the United States. India has also publicly framed this as a run of multiple concluded free trade agreements with developed partners in recent years. But why all these deals and free trade agreements all of a sudden? Like it's like world is always all of a sudden world is rushing for free trade agreements and trade deals all over the globe, right? So the answer lies in the fourth industrial revolution. As we move deeper into this thing, okay, which is all about semiconductors, artificial intelligence, and digital payments. So the countries are racing against time to secure the natural resources, right? Natural resources required to capitalize on it. Okay. Now, also another factor is the China's dominance across key parts of the semiconductor ecosystem and critical mineral supply chains including rare earth elements. So all this basically what it does is that it raises the risk of a new unipolar leverage point if it's not addressed in time, right? Just like petrodollar, right? That's what happened with the petrodollar system. That is why countries are scrambling to secure supply chains, processing capacity, and logistics for these materials. Now, today, countries like the United States, India, and European Union, okay, they have a very big problem. The big problem is that their military hardware and the industrial systems, they contain Chinese hardware, Chinese linked components to some extent, in some capacity. All right, so which creates a real national security vulnerability. So therefore, there is an urgency to secure supply chain, right? To control, diversify sourcing, and make all the logistics reliable before the next disruption hits. Okay, so that's when the Chile comes into play. That's what brings us to Chile. Chile is critical because it sits on minerals that matter most for electrification. Then we have advanced manufacturing, then you have especially things like mines, lithium mines. Chile is the I think one of the largest producers of lithium and copper. Then plus other strategic metals used across high-end industrial systems. Now, on January 30th, 2026, India's Commerce Minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal, he's been actually very active these days. Okay, he said that that India-Chile Free Trade Agreement is nearing closure and described it as a strategic move to open up access to critical minerals. Now, in today's video, we are going to talk about all this. Okay, will break this deal into what was announced, then trade numbers, then Chile's mineral dominance as far as hard data is concerned, then what the comprehensive economic partnership agreement is negotiating line by line, and that's what CEPA is with Chile. Okay, and what India gets if it closes. Okay, so let's get started, let's get going. Please do like and subscribe because you doing that helps me, so help me help you so that I can make better content. All right, so let's get started, let's get going, and here we go. Hey guys, welcome back. And now let's get started about what India-Chile Free Trade Agreement. Now, what exactly is going on? See, first of all, before we move forward, I want you to know that there is already a preferential trade agreement between India and Chile. Now, what that preferential trade agreement is, let me actually show you the proof real quick, okay? So that we know what exactly is going on, what we are dealing with, okay? So right here, you see, this is the Department of Commerce website, and Department of Commerce website is clearly stating that India-Chile PTA, that is Preferential Trade Agreement. Okay, so now what they're going to do with Chile is this. What they're going to do is that they're going to upgrade this preferential trade agreement to comprehensive economic preferential agreement. Okay, that's what they're going to upgrade it to. There is going to be called CEPA. Okay, so that's what that is. All right. So for those who don't know, see, India does not just go and sign a uniform free trade agreement with each and every country. India's dealing with each and every country is different, and that based on that dealing. Okay, based on that dealing, India calls it whether it is preferential trade agreement. India can call it CEPA, or India can call it full blown, I mean, FTA, that is free trade agreement. Okay, with each country it is different depending on the trade volume and other factors. Okay, like with the United States, India has never signed free trade agreement with the United States, even the United States has been the largest trading partner by volume. And as far as your your trade imbalance is concerned, in India has trade surplus with the United States when it comes to the goods, right? So, but still, India's trade with United States is called bilateral trade agreement (BTA). It's not called free trade agreement. Okay, so there are certain things. Why is that? Because of the way US is and how the dealing has been with India and US, between India and US, or US and any other country. That is simply the weaponization of trade. So India does not really get into all that free trade agreement and those type of dealings with the United States just because of these risks. Okay, so now coming back to Chile. So with Chile, India is going to upgrade that PTA, preferential trade agreement, to the CEPA, and they're gonna call it a free trade agreement. Okay, so what exactly happened here? Okay, let me show you my slide and then we go from there. Okay, now, India said that free trade agreement will be closed soon, with critical minerals angle named upfront as the central strategic payoff. Of course, I mean, Chile has the largest lithium mines and all. Chile has cobalt mines and all. So all these things are important when it comes to your electronics, automobiles, solar energy, and all that type of hardware, right? So third round of talks they concluded on October 27th, between 27th and 30th. 2025. Fourth round talks concluded December 5th, 2025. And after the fourth round talk, reporting says that they were doing intersessional work. Okay. Intersessional work and trying to fix the dates basically for the fifth round of talks, possibly. Okay. And that will be the final round. And no public confirmed date is there yet. Okay. So and I think that's because India got busy with the European Union, right? European Union wanted to sign the whole entire trade deal by 27th January. Okay, and and then India's Republic Day was there, so lots of things were going on. So I think that this whole thing is the delay is mainly from the Indian side. Okay, and India just all of a sudden India US trade deal was being worked on too, right? They both countries actually released a joint statement. So that's why that's why we are seeing this little bit of delay. But I'm pretty sure that they're gonna sort all these things out in this month, in February. Now, so the priority inputs, priority minerals will be what? Lithium, copper, rhenium, molybdenum, I guess, because you can B and D are together, right? So you cannot. So one has to be molybdenum actually, not B. You molybdenum, then cobalt. I have to actually. But that's funny. Anyways, the end user sectors named electronics, automobiles, and solar energy. Okay. Now, so as we know that the stated goal is basically supply chain strengthening, emerging and strategic industries, and all the good stuff, right? That we have talked about for the fourth industrial revolution. Okay. Now, if you're still with me, please do stay with me. Okay, because this is important. I'm gonna show you the numbers. I mean, lots of people will take Chile very lightly, but I'm gonna show you the importance of a country, Chile, called Chile. Okay, it's a very small country, but it has the world's largest telescope too. If you didn't know, okay, that's the largest telescope that's out there is in Chile. Okay, so yeah, let's look at the news. and then we move forward. All right. So Chile FTA soon, trade pact to open up critical mineral sector for India, and this is what everyone is gunning for nowadays, right? The negotiations for the free trade agreement with Chile will be closed soon, and once it is done, it will boost India's access to critical minerals, said Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal on Friday. We are engaged in active dialogue with many developed nations for free trade agreements. We will soon close the FTA with Chile. It will open up critical minerals for us, Goel said at an event of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. Okay. The proposed pact with the South American country would help secure supplies of minerals such as lithium, copper, rhenium, molybdenum, and cobalt. Key inputs for sectors including electronics, automobiles, and solar energy. Okay. Now, one second. Let me make this easy for you guys. There you go. And Goyal said the agreement would support India's effort to strengthen supply chains for emerging and strategic industries as demand for these materials rises. Chile is among the world's major holders of critical mineral reserves, and the agreement is seen as part of India's broader push to diversify sourcing and reduce dependence on limited set of global suppliers. India and Chile signed the terms of reference TOR for the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement. I was calling it preferential, so that's the correction from my side. All right, my apologies. Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement in May 2025. The proposed CEPA seeks to build on the existing preferential trade agreement between the two countries and expand coverage to a wider set of sectors, including digital services, investment, facilitation, MSMEs, and critical minerals. Now, with India aiming to scale up manufacturing of electric vehicles, the need for critical minerals is also on the rise. Currently, India is heavily dependent on Chinese imports for critical minerals. The Economic Survey 2025-2026 flagged intensifying global competition for critical minerals such as lithium, cobalt, nickel, copper, and rare earths, which are vital for electric vehicle batteries and clean technologies. It said these metals are central to energy security, geopolitics, with India balancing strategic autonomy and global integration through the National Critical Mineral Mission and international partnerships. Now, currently, India has trade deficit of $1.4 billion with Chile. As of 2024-2025, India's export to Chile went down by 2.46% to just $1.15 billion. Imports, however, grew 72% to $2.6 billion. It is still much better than what it is with other countries. Okay, so what did we learn from here? Some of these things we already learned is that world is in the fourth industrial revolution. The need for artificial intelligence and semiconductors, then electric vehicles, all these things are going to are is going to actually create the need for what? It's going to create the need for rare earths and all these mineral processing. Now, up until now, world was quiet. Why was that? Because nobody actually realized that they realized in 2010, but after that, uh, they just didn't know what to do. But after this whole Russia Ukraine war started and supply chain started to get impacted by all this, so things have started to take a little bit of the foot on the gas pedal. They're putting their foot on the gas pedal to speed things up if you don't want to be left behind in the fourth industrial revolution. And considering China had all the rare earths and everything, so the world was like, okay, we don't want a unipolar world, because rare earth semiconductors was the primary thing because of which China was going after Taiwan. Okay. Now, if you notice, now if you think that I am saying anything wrong here or my analysis is wrong a little bit, go look at Park Silica. US says that they created Park Silica. They say that Park Silica was created because uh, It's a group of all the semiconductors and artificial intelligence and technology countries, this, that, blah, 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 all the good stuff they say. But if that is the case, if that's really your definition of it, then why TSMC? The Taiwan is out. Taiwan is left out in Park Silka. It's not part of it. When actually TSMC is the largest, actually TSMC has the monopoly into this whole thing. Meaning, which tells you or and me that uh, the Taiwan at this point is a no-go zone. They don't want to interfere with that. Okay, because that is like a single point of failure as far as supply chain is concerned. Now, when there was a serious military gap between US and China, between the US military and Chinese military, then it was all good. US was like, yeah, we can handle this. So Taiwan, everyone was buying things from Taiwan and nobody actually bothered about it. China didn't bother about it either. Not bother, but actually China didn't say anything. Okay? They were quiet. But now as this gap has closed, now Chinese Navy is bigger than US Navy, Chinese Air Force is bigger than US Air Force. Now lots of you will like, oh, equipment is not good and this and that. Hey, I don't think that anyone wants to find out. Okay? So I will just leave it at that. Now, so that because that gap has closed, so the risk for Taiwan to be a single point of failure has grown too. And because of that, all the countries now are like, okay, now we cannot rely on Taiwan at this point, considering Chinese are always after Taiwan. So what do we do? So they're saying, okay, let's create our own supply chain. Let's focus. Let's develop our processing and mineral capacity, investments, all that good stuff, and extraction and all that, right? So they're saying that let's do all that ourselves. So US is saying that hey, at best we can do is that we can give you the influence. We can let you go and talk to Chile and other countries so that you do what you do, and we will invest the capital and we will give you the technology to invest into all this. And India is like, okay, we have the labor, we have cheap labor, and we also have the money to invest into processing and extraction of rare earths. So we have the full capability to handle all this. So that's why India is like, okay, we are gonna get involved into all this. Okay, and then you have South Korea is there. South Korea, Samsung is the second largest producer of semiconductor devices and all that. Okay, after TSMC. So now you will see the supply chain is between South Korea, Japan, India, US, and then some of it is going to go into the West Asia or the Middle East as well. So we will see this happening. Okay, that supply chain is going to scatter, and then some of it is going to go into Israel as well. Okay, so that's what is going on now. Coming back to the Chile, so now let's look at another news. Okay, another news is this, that Coal India board clears Chile arm for lithium and copper, approves over rupees 6,300 crore investments. Now, for those who don't know, now this is written wrong here. Okay, this is not the symbol of India's currency actually. So India's currency symbol is somewhat like this, and they should be using it. But what do you do, right? So, anyways, so, so what is the new news? Is a Coal India Limited board on Wednesday, which is February 4th, right here. Okay, approved setting up an intermediate holding company in Chile to pursue critical minerals opportunities, including lithium and copper, as both countries move closer to finalizing a free trade agreement. Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal had recently said that negotiation between India and Chile for an FTA would be concluded soon, and the pact would provide greater access to critical minerals for domestic businesses. Chile has large lithium reserves, copper, uranium, molybdenum, cobalt, which are key inputs for sectors such as electronics, automobiles, solar energy. So all that good stuff, right? So they are already signing all these. They are already setting up the companies. They are already doing the prep work to start the mining of all lithium and copper. Okay, and both are required for what? Both are required for the batteries, electric vehicles, and other semiconductor devices and all that, right? So all that is needed. and so that's just the raw material, right? So now let's look into the current trade with Chile. What exactly does that look like? Okay, let's look into that. So India's trade deficit with Chile is 1.4 billion dollars that we talked about. For year 2024-2025, exports to Chile was 1.15 billion dollars, which went down by 2.46%. Okay, and for year 24 and 2025, imports from Chile were $2.6 billion, up by 72%. So, India Chile Preferential Trade Agreement came into force in Chile on 17th August 2007 and in India on 11th September 2007. Okay, so this relationship already has long legal base. The expanded PTA implemented 16th May 2017 widened tariff concessions to 1,031 tariff lines offered by India and 1,798 tariff lines offered by Chile, showing both sides have already scaled coverage once before. Okay, so they are basically slowly uh, closing that gap. Okay, and considering Chile is not a very big country, so you're not going to expect $150 billion, $200 billion, that kind of trade volume with Chile. This is why India had to sign the trade agreement, the bilateral trade agreement. How doesn't matter how bad that is, okay? But they had to sign it simply because of the scaling opportunity with the US. When India signs the trade agreement with US, then there is opportunity to scale up, right? So yes, President Trump's government, this administration may be not that much friendly or all that, but they're gonna just wait this out. It's better to sign it, do some trade, right? And then when next administration comes, then renegotiate the deals and all and figure out how to handle all that, right? So those things are going to that change, or they can change over the period of time. But you need, if you want volume, then you have to sign these FTAs with the large countries. Okay, large countries like Russia, you have to sign that with China. You have to work with Brazil. You have to work with United States and all that. Like India and Brazil's trade is just what, $20 billion. That's about it. So that needs to increase too, right? So all those things. Then India has to sign a free trade agreement with Canada as well, and I'm gonna talk about that pretty soon, like in tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Okay, but that's gonna be even more interesting stuff. All right. So now let's look into why Chile is mission critical for India. Okay, so Chile is mission critical because of these numbers. Look at these numbers. Lithium reserves in Chile 9.3 million metric tons, with world lithium reserves 30 million metric tons. Now imagine that, one third, right? Um, then, uh, then lithium mine production in 2024, Chile 49,000 tons. Then world total 240,000 tons. Imagine that. Okay. Copper mine production in 2024, Chile is 5,300,000 metric tons. World total is 2,300,000 metric tons. I mean, Chile has a major chunk of it all, right? Now, copper reserves. Chile 190,000 metric tons, world copper reserve is 980,000 metric tons. Rhenium production in 2024 was 29,000 kilograms. World total is 62,000 kilograms. That's like 50% almost, right? So that's what makes Chile very important. Rhenium reserve, Chile 1 point, basically what? How much is this? This is like your, I would say, 1,300,000 kilograms, right? Then you have molybdenum mine production in 2024. Chile is 38,000 metric tons. World total 260,000 metric tons, right? Molybdenum reserve, Chile is 1,400,000 tons. World total is 15,000 metric tons, right? All this is there. This is the number, right? So 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 this is why now. Global cobalt mine production concentration in 2024 was Congo's was 76%, world mine production, Indonesia was 10%. Okay. So that's the number for you guys. Now, this is why Chile is very important. Yes, it is a small country, but it's very important. Now, here's the interesting thing about Chile. I will tell you that the whole Russia-Ukraine war, for example, Russia-Ukraine war primary one of the primary reasons for Russia Ukraine war to continue even to this day simply was that European Union is supporting it for one and only one reason, that is all these rare earth mines and all that. Okay, before this they used to import all that stuff, buy it from Chile, but because of the supply chain cost and lots of other risks involved in it, so import was pretty expensive when they imported all that product from Chile. So they figured that since Ukraine has it, then why not we just bring in Ukraine under our umbrella, that is NATO umbrella, and then ask it to join European Union. And then what they were planning to do was to simply utilize it for all these natural resources for the fourth industrial revolution. So their whole idea was that they will stay ahead of the curve by doing this, making this move. Okay, but Russians Russians basically pooped on that plan. All right, and since Russians pooped on that plan, so now European Union doesn't know what to do with it. Now they are still importing stuff from Chile and all that. They are still doing all that. That's why they ended up signing free trade agreement with India, because they figured that India is going to import all that. So if they sign free trade agreement with India, then they, at least India can provide the cheaper stuff and alternatives to China. So they don't have to rely on Chinese hardware in anything else and compromise their national security, right? Now let's look into what actually is being negotiated here. Okay, so the legal upgrade under negotiation is SEPA. And terms of reference for SEPA were signed in May 2025. We talked about that the first SEPA negotiating round concluded in 30th May, and both sides aligned the agreement into 17 thematic tracks, meaning the deal is structured to go far beyond a narrow good tariff swap. Okay. Those tracks explicitly trade in goods, trade in services, rules of origin, custom procedure, trade facilitation, investment promotion and cooperation, intellectual property rights, and dedicated lane for strategic minerals trade and sustainable development. The practical mineral question being solved inside CEPA is whether India gets predictable, preferential access not only to ores but also to intermediates and refined forms under rules of origin that actually qualify for preferences at scale. These are all trade terminologies, and we have already talked about that. So what they're going to do is they're going to talk about trade in goods, they're going to trade in services, then they're going to talk about this rules of origin, where it is originated, and if it is in India, whether it is in Chile, all that. So these are your technical terms for the trading, okay, the free trade agreement that they are going to further sign. All right, so then let's see, let's what do we have. What this deal really delivers. Okay, so deal will deliver what? Supply security with leverage. Then you have lower strategic risk. And then you have a deal built for manufacturing outcomes. The pact is explicitly linked to electronics, automobiles, solar energy, which are exactly the sectors that fail when inputs become expensive, right? All these things, right? A deeper architecture than old PTA. So India and Chile already expanded tariff line coverage once before. Now they're going to extend this further, okay? CAPA in the next step that folds in services, investment, and facilitation, so the corridor can scale beyond raw flows. Okay, now lower strategic risk is gonna be there, so that lowers the strategic risk, of course, and this is gonna lower the, not just for India, this is going to lower the strategic risk for India and US. This is why, see, you have to understand this, that this is why lots and lots of US companies have invested in India. So I was just reading this news that Qualcomm has successfully made 2 nanometer chip in India. Now, Qualcomm is an American company, it's not an Indian company, first thing first, but it has made it. Okay. And but what they have done, is that they have moved the supply chain to India. Okay. And that's the whole thing. And that's exactly what's going on. The whole idea of friendshoring was that United States technology and all these companies, they're gonna go to India, and over there, what China was doing, like I said, I had said this thing in 2023 in one of my podcasts I did on Spotify about the BRICS and all. I said that the relationship of India and US will be somewhat like what the relationship between US and China was back in the day, because that's what US knows. Okay, that there is a already a framework set. Now why unnecessarily go out there and create a bad framework? I mean, not bad framework, but create another framework, and then do some research on it and this and that. That takes time and energy, right? So what they do is that they change few wordings according to, and they make it compatible for India. And what they do is that they present the same framework to India as well. So what India is basically right now doing, what with you or US, let's say, the relationship between US and India is pretty much the same as what was the relationship between US and China back in 70s and 80s and all that. 80s and large part of 90s, okay? So so that's what is going on right now. Lots of people are like, okay, de-dollarization and this and that. I mean, if you I mean, he for those who say de-dollarization and all that, yeah, maybe there are one or two countries, but I mean, if I ask you, anybody who says de-dollarization, I just ask them one question, simple question: can you tell me five countries that have totally that have zeroed the dollar use? Okay, if all of their trade is all, forget 100%, forget 100, let's go with 90%. Just name five countries that have 90% trade in non-dollar denomination. I can assure you that nobody can answer that question. Okay. I have dug deep into it, I have looked into it. Only thing that is there is that yes, there are traders who do. Countries are preferring nowadays, they have this option, they are setting all this up. But nobody really wants to go against the dollar, not because that they love it or something. It's just simply the trade is done by the traders, the big organizations, the billion dollar, multi billion dollar companies. Their systems are built for accepting the dollar as a currency. Okay, it's easier for them. That's why the ease of doing business, when you want to improve the ease of doing business, then you have to incorporate dollar one way or the other. Okay, now countries are just using the trade in national currencies as an option in case something like this happens, whatever happened with the Russia. Okay, so in case that happens, then they will already have a system in place to counter all that. Okay, but I don't believe that India will ever get into such a situation. All right, so now let's look into the trade growth target. Okay, what exactly that is here. All right, let's look into that real quick. So the Chile's ambassador to India, Juan Angulo said bilateral trade is around $3.8 billion and could grow to $10 billion in coming years. I mean, dude is already talking about doubling more than this. Okay. Another recent public briefing pegs bilateral trade to add $3.6 billion for year 2024-2025, which is why the corridor keeps getting described as $4 billion, about $4 billion. Okay, mechanism for scaling trade towards $10 billion is SEPA itself. Okay, so once this is signed, after that free trade agreement, India and Chile trade will grow from to be $10 billion. Now, considering that India and Chile, they expand their this trading line, the tariff line, so they keep extending it further and further. So that tells me that not just $10 billion, actually after signing FTA, it may grow even more. Okay, so widening coverage across 17 tracks, so minerals are paired with services access, investment lanes, and trade facilitation and IP rules, so that is intellectual property rules, that make long-term industrial linkage feasible. Okay. Now, all this is gonna be good until India finds something else too. But here's the thing, guys: the way technology is, I think this fourth industrial revolution is going to be there for this whole entire century. The next part of this century is gonna be the fourth industrial revolution. Okay, so so these countries that have rare earth, that have the processing capacity, that have extraction capacity, all those things, these countries are going to become even more important. That's why Arctic is going to become even more important. Okay, the negotiation architecture is already why the first round is concluded with talks around 17 thematic topics. Right, we talked about all that. Parallel to this, here both sides have been reported as being in the final stages of a social security agreement aimed at easing movement of professionals and supporting investment, which is the type of plumbing that increases services trade and long-term corporate presence, meaning that they're going to have some visa and all that too. So probably the exchange of students and exchange of professionals services and all that sector, they're going to increase that as well. Chile side has linked the CEPA to market access plus critical minerals and investment, which is the practical route for 4 billion corridor to a $10 billion corridor. Okay, so there is more to come in this whole thing, and uh, a lot is going on with this. So once the final agreement is signed, I'm gonna come back to you guys with this whole entire update as to what exactly happened and what's the game plan, the real picture. Right now, yes, it looks like 10 billion, but I believe that it's gonna go up further. Okay. So this is it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. Please do like and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys in another video. Take care.